The AT-AT, the poster boy for walkers in the Star Wars franchise, and one of the most iconic vehicles in all of science fiction, stomping onto the battlefield with heavy feet and armed with even heavier firepower, laying waste to rebel forces in the name of the Empire. With its massive size, incredible power, four-legged stature, and unstoppable presence on the battlefield, it's no mystery that this Imperial walker is a formidable force to be reckoned with. The design of this imposing walker has some interesting origins. Behind the scenes of the design of this mechanical monstrosity lies not only the technology of the time, but the biology of the natural world as well. However, its inspiration is from an animal not from the modern era, but from a time long past. A behemoth of titanic proportions, the largest mammal ever discovered, Paraceratherium. Paraceratherium was a massive odd-toed ungulate, or paracerdactyl, that roamed the Earth during the Oligocene epoch, approximately 33 to 34 million years ago. This colossal quadruped weighed at an estimated 15 to 20 tons, 3 times the size of an African elephant, the largest land mammal alive today, while standing tall enough to look a giraffe in the eye at 5 meters high in height, with a long neck to match. Despite its massive size and long neck, its closest relative would seem to be an unlikely family member: rhinos, belonging to the same superfamily called Rhinoceratoidea, with this group's members consisting of modern rhinos, the hornless hyracoodonts, and the aquatic amniodonts, with Paraceratherium falling under the family Hyracoodontidae, a family of extinct hornless rhinos with long, horse-like legs and elongated necks. When the first remains of Paraceratherium were discovered in 1911, all paleontologists had was a singular, massive skull that bore a resemblance to that of a rhino. As a result, initial reconstructions of the animal relied heavily on the anatomy of modern rhinos, depicting an animal that would look like what people would expect of a rhino relative. As time went on, and more scattered remains of various specimens were discovered, many of which extremely fragmentary, and as a result, many different genera arose, including Aceratherium, Indricotherium, Baluchitherium, and Zungariatherium, unaware that all these specimens belong to the same genus of animal. As paleontology continued to progress throughout the 20th century, a better picture of this immense mammal began to form, transitioning away from the chonky, hornless rhino to an animal that resembled a giraffe-like pachyderm. Although whether it was truly a pachyderm like modern rhinos is purely speculation at the moment, since the evidence that we have of what this animal looked like on the outside is little to none. No skin impressions, no mummies, no nothing. All we have is speculation based on the fossilized bones and the traits of its modern relatives. That isn't to say that painting a picture of Paraceratherium's life is impossible, as the bones still provide significant clues on how these animals lived and behaved, as well as any potential traits these animals may have possessed in life to navigate their environment. Based on Paraceratherium's anatomy, along with the shape of its teeth, we can infer that Paraceratherium was a high browser, using its long neck to reach the highest trees to feed on vegetation normally out of reach for other animals. What's more, Paraceratherium may have had another adaptation that would further assist in its browsing lifestyle. Evidence suggests the presence of a flexible upper lip, characteristic to most browsing ungulates, including rhinos, such as the Indian rhino and black rhino. Thanks to these upper lips, browsers can better manipulate food closer to their mouths, increasing their reach and maneuverability amongst the branches and leaves of trees and shrubs. Due to the size of this behemoth browser, Paraceratherium would have likely been vulnerable to the midday heat, and as a result, would have likely been more active in their foraging in the evenings and nights, similar to other large mammals today like rhinos and elephants, while moving slower in the daytime heat in order to avoid overheating, the price for being such a large, warm-blooded mammal. On the upside, pun intended, the enormous size of Paraceratherium allowed it to go long periods of time without food or water as it roamed the arid landscapes of its environment. Its great size also meant it was safe for most predators of the time, such as the bone-crunching hyenodons, or the cat-like nimravids, each no bigger than wolves in size. However, the size of these animals didn't make them totally invincible, with evidence of possible predation from crocodiles like Astrogosuchus, via bite marks on Paraceratherium bones. likely hinting at an attack on a younger individual or sick individual, but at the same time, it could easily be evidence of scavenging instead of active predation. Size wasn't the only thing huge about these animals. After all, big animals require big living spaces, with scientists speculating that these animals require a range of 1,000 square kilometers, 250,000 acres of living space to survive and thrive. The distribution range of these animals was truly immense, being found from the vast deserts of Mongolia to as far west as the Middle East. As a result, Paraceratherium occupied varied territories and environments, from vast shrublands to arid landscapes. The success of Paraceratherium and its wide distribution was likely due to competitive exclusion, which is when multiple species cannot compete for the same resources in the same area for a long period of time. It's been suggested that the growth of these massive mammals not only allowed it to capitalize on its niche as a giant browser and push aside any potential competitors, but it also forced populations of Paraceratherium apart, forcing them to migrate to other regions for the necessary resources, and through this migration, became more widespread throughout Eurasia. Sadly, this competitive edge would not last long, and would eventually lead to its extinction through said competition. With other large browsing herbivores like dinotheres evolving in Africa and eventually migrating into Asia, competition began to increase, and Paraceratherium unfortunately couldn't make the cut, as other large-bodied herbivores began to replace them.
Ironic.
However, millions of years later, the massive presence of these bizarre titans is not lost on humanity, not only to the scientists that study them, but the artists that they inspire. In the late 20th century, the world was met with the inception of a pop culture icon known simply as Star Wars. After the success of the first film, the filmmakers sought to go bigger with the sequel, Empire Strikes Back, seeking to go bigger and more exciting in the grand story and world that they wanted to build, seeking to bring new and exciting aspects into the next film. During development, George Lucas received a spark of inspiration from War of the Worlds from the Martian tripods, and wanted to feature similar machines in his next masterpiece with the Imperial Walkers. And visual effects guru Phil Tippett, infamous for his various works such as his short film Prehistoric Beast, as well as his contributions to other films like Jurassic Park and Starship Troopers, sought to design the newly conceived AT-AT Imperial Walker. Phil Tippett himself held a strong affinity for dinosaurs and prehistoric life, and looked to them for inspiration for the design. He eventually found his epiphany in the anatomy of a certain giant mammal. As a result, he incorporated the various aspects of Paraceratherium's design into the AT-AT, albeit based on earlier constructions of the animal, with a bulky body sitting on 4 long legs that would trample anything in their way. The development of the AT-AT marked a tipping point in the evolution of special effects in film, and would go on to influence its evolution and progress, resulting in the development of special effects that would in turn eventually give rise to new depictions of Paraceratherium in media in ways never seen before, breathing new life into these old giants. It is thanks to these works, be it through scientific discoveries of paleontology or artistic intrigue of technology and pop culture, that millions of years after it roamed the planet, the footsteps of Paraceratherium continue to echo throughout the world.